What up, you guys? It's your girl, Lena Elkins here. Hope that you guys are having an awesome Thursday. I know that I am. It is so gorgeous outside right now, but it's a little bit windy, so I'm really hoping it doesn't fuck with the sound. It should be okay, but thought we'd do this video outside today. I'm really excited to talk about this issue because this is a topic that quite a few of you, like a shit ton of you, have come to me talking about, but it's almost one of those topics that's like embarrassing, you know? It's not the kind of thing that I think most people would post about publicly in the group. It's more something that people would talk about one-on-one with a little bit of shame attached to it, which is unfortunate because it's a very legit issue that a lot of people in this industry deal with, and I think it's important that we just put it out there in the open, show that there's something to be ashamed of, and that we all go through this from time to time, and we can all address it publicly. So that's what we're here to do. We're just going to put this issue out in the open, and I'm going to be talking you guys through some ways that I've been able to overcome it in my career, basically, without having to really deal with this issue at all anymore. But that issue is selling. How do you actually sell shit? How do you actually close sales, especially when you're selling high-ticket, products and services? This might, especially pertain to coaches, consultants, that kind of a thing, more than freelancers and such, just because it's more high-ticket, and especially if you are a coach or consultant that's consulting or coaching fellow millennials, then it's especially challenging because millennials just typically have less discretionary income than maybe bigger companies that you would be consulting or startups or that kind of a thing. So because of it, selling high-ticket items to freelancers can be more challenging. That's not to say it's impossible. It's not to say it's not doable. Obviously, my entire business model and success is based on that. So if you have the right tactics in place, then it works out. But I want to address this issue. How do you actually close these sales without disappointing yourself all the time, without feeling let down, without all the stress and anxiety of getting on these calls, and what does the actual funnel need to look like? And I just kind of want to put it out there in the open. First of all, I'm going to tell you guys it's not as complicated as you think it is, but it is going to require you to make some changes to maybe your funnels and how you're communicating with your audience now. So I'm just going to go through them. I just wrote out some general ideas here. These are no in particular order. It's not that they build on top of each other, although maybe some of them will. If you guys are wondering, by the way, why I'm wearing 2 engagement rings, it's a long story, but basically this is the one from Eliav, my fiance, and this is my mother's engagement ring that was her grandmother's as well, and it's a long story, but basically I'm responsible for it right now, and I thought the best way to be responsible for it is just to have it on my finger, so it's on the other hand. With that said, let's just get right into it. So one of the big questions that people come to me asking is what do I do when people submit, on my website, my contact form, they're interested in my services, but then I can't get a hold of them. So basically they enter, okay, here's my email address, here's my phone number, whatever, but then I can't get a hold of them. It's nearly impossible, in my experience, to sell a high-ticket item if you don't have a one-on-one call with them, either whether you're having a one-on-one call with them or an assistant or somebody's having a one-on-one call with them. The problem is that people are naturally unreliable, so if they just leave their phone number, that's leaving you responsible to just call them whenever they're available, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to answer. You could email them, but they won't necessarily reply. So what I like to do is actually set up, immediately, if they're going to contact me through my website, what I do is I say, hey, if you're interested in my programs, you can't just email me. What you can do is you can book a call. That's kind of the automatic next step. So if they see an ad of mine on Facebook or something in a publication, it immediately drives them to a new landing page that says, hey, book a free call, a free 30-minute, discovery call or strategy session or wherever you want to call it, to guarantee that they're going to book that call right there on the spot, and it's going to be saved in their calendar. So what you can do, and I just do this through Acuity, is literally if they want to book, if they are interested in learning more about my programs or whatever, it's immediately great, part of the application process to be a part of this is to book a call, and then immediately from there they click on Acuity, which is my online scheduler, and then they're able to do that. So that's the first thing, is that right away there should be no lagging point. There should be no point where they're asked to leave their phone number and email, whatever, and then you'll just call them when it's convenient for you. That's not how it works. You want to get that shit locked into both your calendar and theirs right away before they have the opportunity to leave the online interaction, if that makes sense. So make sure that you have that. And then another big issue that people have is once they're actually on these calls, though, people feel really awkward, they don't know what to say. And if the more in depth, though, on that call, if you can be really specific to what they're going through and be really in depth with their issues, it's going to make it much easier for you to guide the conversation, and it's going to feel much more natural, and you can kind of customize your pitch and your sale to work for them. And the best way to do that is to actually attach a really thorough questionnaire when they actually book that call with you. So when they enter in their information to book that call with you, it's not like they're just entering in, their email address, their phone number, whatever. With programs like Acuity, I don't know about other tools, I'm sure other tools have this, but I know with Acuity, there's actually an attached form that they have to fill out where you can ask any questions that you want. And I typically get pretty specific with those questions, like what, you can go deep, what's really driving you in your business? On a scale from 1 to 10, how committed are you to making, 6 figures in your business every year? What's your biggest insecurity right now in your business? Why do you want to be a part of this program? Almost make them prove themselves a little bit. Why do you want to be a part of this program? What have you accomplished thus far? That questionnaire psychologically for them is really going to build them up and make them more prepared and excited for the call. And it's also going to give you a lot of, detailed insights that will help you guide the conversation so that it's both comfortable and valuable for both you and them, if that makes sense. So every single call should be personable. You should never have this super straight canned pitch. You have to remember that you're speaking to a real human being and you need to make it customized to them. And the best way to do that is to have plenty of information on them beforehand. And that's easy to do with tools like Acuity. And another thing is about being nervous on calls. A lot of you guys are part of this process. You're like, well, I'm sure that they just didn't sign with me because I seemed really nervous or really awkward or I didn't know what I was saying. What I want to say to that is that you have to remember that you're the one who's in charge of this conversation. You are guiding this conversation, and no matter how nervous you are, they're more nervous. They're getting on the phone with a stranger who they know wants to take their money. That's pretty fucking awkward for a lot of people, especially millennials. So they're going to be more nervous than you no matter what. Your job is to make them feel more comfortable, and the best way to do that is just to be yourself. Don't feel like you have to act like a salesperson. Don't act like you have to give this perfect pitch. Just talk as you would normally talk. Be friendly. Ask them about their lives. Act like it's a friend who you're catching up with, or it's like a first date. Just chill. Just be relaxed and kind and make the conversation about them. It's going to make you feel less awkward if you're just asking them questions about them, which helps you anyway because then you get more insight on them. But I think that the key is to just be relaxed and to act like yourself and remember that no matter how nervous you are, they're more nervous than you are. And I also think that a big part of it as well is just practice. It's one of these things that just takes consistency. I'll never forget the first discovery call I had with somebody. I was so nervous and I'm sure I sounded awful on the call, but you know what? Then I had one the next day and the next day and the next day. And now having these calls are fun for me. Even if I don't know them, even if I've never spoken to them before, it makes me feel like I'm just catching up with an old friend, even if I don't know them. Having these calls is fun to me. So I think part of it is just repetition, and that helps a lot as well, and just practice. But don't worry about the nervous thing, because that is something that you will get over, but it takes practice, and you need to remember that you're the one who is in charge of the conversation, right? So that is the next thing I want to share. The next thing that I want to say is it's really important for you to learn how to speak their language. You need to have a really clear and in-depth understanding of the struggles and the insecurities that they're experiencing right now. And if you don't, they're not going to feel connected to you and they're not going to feel like they can trust you. They are going to feel like they can trust you if you're yeah, I don't know, this is a random question. I'm just going to make up a random example, but if you're a dog trainer, let's say, and you're on a call with a potential client, and you're yeah, no, I get it, your puppy is, biting up all the furniture, and, the toys are everywhere, and it's such a mess. I remember when I first got my puppy, and I was also experiencing all of these things, and how stressful it was, and I was losing sleep, it was having a new baby, whatever, if you can really get in depth with the feelings that they're experiencing, and you can connect to it, then that's going to make a really big difference in terms of their comfortability and how much they're going to trust you once you then transition into the program, that they might be investing in. So that's the next thing. Learn how to speak their language. Again, this should never be just a canned sales pitch. The next thing I want to tell you guys is that it's really, really important on these calls when you're telling them about your programs and services that there is some sort of a time pressure that's associated with it. Or there's some kind of like they're going to lose out on something if they don't make a decision quickly. And the reason for that is obvious, right? I mean, if they think that one of your programs or services is open forever and ever, there's absolutely no reason for them to act now. They'll be okay, well then I could do it in a month from now or 6 months from now or whatever, So that's also a really, really important thing is to identify, you should know right off the bat what special bonuses, you can offer if they choose to go through with it in the next 24 hours, or what discounts you can offer, or whatever it is. But there needs to be some time limit on it that's going to encourage them to act quickly. So that's the next thing that I wanted to share. And I think that the last thing that I want to share is, I just had it. Come on, Lena. It's understanding the value and preparing to debunk any concerns or objections at the beginning of the call. And by that, I'm saying, when people on the call are like, well, it's just not the right time for me because I'm busy with school and work and whatever, or I can't afford it right now, or I need to talk to my significant other about it, or whatever it is, right? There could be a lot of objections. It's really important that you ask them right off the bat, why don't you just tell me what objections you're experiencing? What's going on in your head right now, just so you can be really open and transparent, which will immediately make them feel more comfortable, like you understand them. And then you can really just address those issues head on in the beginning. The worst thing ever is when you're on a call with somebody, a potential client, and you've been on the call already for 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, and you think you're about to close the call, and then they're like, oh, but, I actually can't really afford this right now. And you're like, well, then why did I just spend 45 minutes of my time, going through this? And, the reason is obvious. A lot of the time people want to, suck out as much information out of you as they can, thinking it's, like a free consultation. You get my point. But really, it's important to address any objections head on in the beginning. And then by the end of the call, you can actually go through those again. Be like, okay, so just want to make sure we address this issue. We're on board. We address this issue. Yeah, we cleared that out of the water. We debunked this myth. Great. We're good on that front. Awesome. So if that's the case, do you just want to move forward, right? Because then there's nothing left for them to object. It's an obvious yes. But you're the one who said it out loud and made it clear to them why that was. So then it's easy for them to be like, oh yeah, well, you're right. Well, there's nothing more that's holding me back anymore. You know what I'm saying? So those are a few tips that I want to share with you guys. I hope this is helpful for those of you guys who are struggling with selling, with these sales calls, with even getting people on the call, with how to act on the call. I really hope that this is helpful for you guys. Let me know if anybody else has any really good sales tips for signing coaching and consulting clients. I would love to hear them. I'm sure the whole group would. With that said, I love you guys, and we'll talk later. Bye.